Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nature's Calls podcast. As always, your host, Nature Erdman. Excited to talk to you guys about a little bit of Chargers football. Obviously, we had an exciting weekend. Slater signing, some offensive line movement, finally some more legit padded practices, getting everybody some reps, starting to see exactly where this team's going to fall out as we get into the preseason. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, most importantly, I can stop harping on this. We signed Rashawn Slater. Thank God. I'm just glad it happened. I'm not going to sit here and kvetch about what took it so long. He's finally signed. That's all that matters. We made him the highest paid tackle in football. We knew that that was the case, if not right there. But had a feeling he was going to be the number one highest paid tackle in football. So I'm glad the price didn't get driven up too much to where it got absolutely crazy. Luckily, Zach Tom's deal wasn't anything insane. So Slater for $28.5 million a year. I know it's expensive, but who cares? Like, you don't get franchise left tackles very often. They don't grow on trees. With Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, we shouldn't ever be picking in the top 5 again. Now, I know I said that, I think, before we ever had the Joe Alt pick, but here we were. So, either way, for the next 4 years, we have legit top 5 at their position bookend tackles. As a Chargers fan, that feels insane to say. Feels absolutely bonkers. 4 years, 114 total million. Cool. I'll take whatever it took. And for this year, I think it saves us 4 million against the cap. We'll get to that at the end of this video, but I'm just so glad to get this over with. Like, we built this team in Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman's image, and he was the missing piece of the puzzle. We could not continue to not have him signed, especially as we start to figure out what our offensive line's going to look like as they begin to gel, start getting reps together. We need to have him out there. We need to have that continuity, because from here on out, with the preseason games and everything else, I expect it to be about really trimming down the roster. So obviously the ones are still going to get their starting reps. They're still going to practice, but we needed to get this taken care of so Slater would be back at practice. Now, of course, there's the injury, whatever we want to call it. It was a blister. The blister on the foot that he had to get gouged out is kind of hilarious. That was the injury. It's kind of a perfect, whether it's legit or not, it feels like a make-believe injury that they weren't telling anybody about for no reason besides the contract situation. So excited to have him back out there. I don't know how much they're just dancing around it for NFLPA's sake of things, or if he legitly couldn't practice to a full capacity, but who cares? It's over now. He's back. We're so here, ladies and gentlemen. Like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens going into this season. Hopefully the interior is a little bit shored up. But if you get any kind of growth from Joe Alt on the right side and Mekhi Becton is 50% of what's advertised, this running game is going to be like nothing we've seen in a long time. And I'm real excited about it. Offensive line in general is starting to gel, I think. So, they might not be starting to gel, but we're starting to see the vision. And more importantly, for me, I feel heard, because what have I been kvetching about for a while now? That it doesn't feel like there's any actual competition at those positions. That it was just, okay, we're going to trot out Bozeman and Zion, and whoever wins the center job is going to have the other one's going to have the left guard job. And luckily, thank God, we're starting to hear something otherwise. And I don't even care if after an honest competition, it ends up being those two. Like, hopefully they won it because someone's more improved versus last year. The right guard play makes that much of a difference. I don't know. But at least we're starting to see some genuine competition here. Like, Zion is struggling at center. That sucks. I was really hoping that he would excel in that position and shore it all up. Sounds like that's kind of getting tossed to the side. If it's an honest competition between Bozeman and Andre James, I'm okay with it. But even the fact that we have Andre James on the roster, who for most of his career has been an upgrade over Bradley Bozeman, is now at least starting to get some level of mention. Like, even if he loses the job, I don't care. At least you're telling me that finally that they're giving it an honest shot. So I'll be intrigued to see as we go into these preseason games how much run Zion really gets, because at some point you have to start gelling out the offensive line. And maybe they decide that someone else is playing left guard, and that's why they're perfectly fine with keeping him in the center competition until the final days. But I hope that they kind of have an idea and a direction. We're going to see some solid playing time from everybody. And that means getting some Andre James snaps out there as well, and really seeing what this offensive line looks like with him out there, both in the running game and passing game. Um, but I mean, we're finally here, boys and girls. We're moving in the right direction. And then Jamari Salyer getting talk at the left guard position. That did not have that on my bingo card. If you guys did, good for you. Smarter man than me. I thought for sure that if anyone was going to come out of the blue for that left guard position, it was going to be like Branson Taylor. Like somehow I was so far wrong, which I've been wrong before. Don't get me wrong. We'll touch on that in a second. But Branson Taylor was just so legit as a left guard prospect that he ends up winning the job. And that's the only way that that really goes to anybody besides Zion. But I did not have Jamari Salyer making that level of a jump. The coaching staff continues to talk about him. People who I respect when it comes to evaluating offensive line play more than I respect my own opinion have said that he looks good out there. So that would be an interesting turn of events if Zion ends up going from one of the core 4 guys or core 10 guys, whatever we called them, to not getting a starting position based off of merit, based off of what he's able to do out there, would be, I guess, a little bit validating that at the end of the day, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. Doesn't matter how much you like the guy, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. Now, I'm not saying if he does win the starting spot that that's going to bother me by any chance, but just the fact that we're finally having some open conversation about, like, okay, these are positions that we've struggled with, and we're allowing other people to possibly take those roles after seeing how much they've only talked about the 2 guys who let us down so much last year is a little bit validating. It's a little bit of a weight off of the shoulders. Like, okay, they're taking this seriously, because, dude, for me, it really felt like they weren't. And I know I mentioned this like a project or a podcast ago, or maybe 2, but the whole pet project thing felt a little bit annoying to me by the end of it. Like, listen to us a little bit. Listen to anyone. Listen to Justin Herbert and just look at the stats and the sacks and everything else that he took last year. Just go watch the Houston game. Like, that enough tells you about that. So at least they're putting forth the effort to make that change. Obviously, from a roster building construction standpoint, it would have been a little bit easier to address, but hindsight's 2020. Like, you can't fix it now. There's no free agent centers out there. Work with what you got, see what you can drum up. Um, Outside of offensive line, let's talk a little bit about the wide receivers. I know we're going to talk about the wide receivers every day because that's what the fans want to hear about. And honestly, it's one of the biggest question marks on the team. So as we continue to see new information, we're going to keep talking about it. I'm probably going to have to eat my words here with KLS because I didn't love it. I liked him as a player. I liked the idea of a downfield threat. I did not see overall, in looking at the entire embodiment of his work, his physicality at the catch point working in the NFL. I didn't see it at all. And I think I may be very mistaken. Like, it's training camp, and he's not necessarily playing against the best guys out there. And when Justin Herbert's throwing him the ball, obviously that helps him look a little bit better. But kind of looks like Kirkland brand Mike Williams right now, or whatever big bodied wide receiver who excels at the catch point is to you. Walmart, Vincent Jackson, Mike Evans. I don't care what you call him, but he's putting it up out there right now. Like, he absolutely looks legit. His aggressiveness at the catch point, his body control, his ball tracking ability, that it all looks top notch. Like, it all looks like he's going to make it in this league. Now it's training camp, and I know that people get excited about people way too early in training camp every year. This is officially me bowing my head and saying, all those guys, you might be right, because holy shit, does he look legit. Now, I don't want you guys to think that that takes anything away from my boy, Trey Harris, because Trey Harris, KLS is doing incredible things that flash on highlights. Trey Harris looks legit, dude. Like he is what we hung his hat on. What I talked about at least a ton when he was coming out was that he creates separation, especially versus man coverage. An insane amount of separation. And he's doing it right now against these Chargers corners. Now, is it a cornerback problem? Hopefully not. Hopefully that it's just these wide receivers are doing that dang good of a job. But some of the contested catch stuff, him playing in that Z role predominantly today, I think. He looked fantastic. I think his versatility is going to be huge with how they want to run this offense because, I mean, I don't think you're going to take Ladd off the field much, but I do think we're going to run a lot of multiple tight end sets. So I think you're going to see a lot of formation changes around, and the more versatility he has to be able to play within that is fantastic. But he just looks like the total package, man. Like those short and intermediate out breaking routes, like he's in breaking routes, slant routes, playing from the inside, playing from the outside. Like, yeah, I haven't seen much of the go ball, beat him downfield, um, that type of contested catch play. But everything else that we've seen from him, even when he's got corners draped all over him, his ball tracking ability himself, we knew his hands were fantastic. But it looks like, hopefully I'm not speaking too soon here, we have the chance to really have a solid young wide receiver core. And I'm not saying that we're going to come out here and these guys are going to be all pros from day one. I don't think they're necessarily going to be Ladd McConkey level contributors, both statistically and just quality of player wise. Might take them a little bit longer to get to that point if they ever get to that point. But if we could even have like, because we've all talked about it, if we could have a Green Bay Packers level of wide receiver room, which is a bunch of young dudes who can grow with their quarterback and keep getting better, and none of them are world beaters. Like, none of them are Ladd. If you had Ladd instead of Jaden Reed or instead of Christian Watson or anything else, and you had that Green Bay wide receiver room, we'd be thrilled as Chargers fans. We'd be incredibly happy. And we might have a wide receiver room of that caliber if KLS hits a little bit, if Quentin Johnston improves by small levels, if Darius Davis does have some flash in the pan on offense. Hell, if what's his name? Spacing on it. DeLe'Veon Campbell? Something like that. Delevon Campbell? I don't know. But even he's made some big plays at camp. Now, I'm not going to overhype that by any chance, by any means. But it just shows that we might have some better talent evaluation on our roster now. Because if these drafts continue to hit even close to what they are, you're talking about the early 49ers run and the 2009 to 2012 Seahawks draft class that set them up so well for their Super Bowl runs. If we can get that, and even if it's not this year, but if you look at next year, if we have as many hits as we did last year, this year, going into the free agency and cap space that we have and how we're continuing to build depth and how we structured the contracts for this season, like, you're cooking with gas, and you're cooking with gas real fast. We haven't even talked about Aronde Gadsden, who, for all intents and purposes, again, I'm not a blocking guru and I'm not going to pretend to be one, but apparently he looks solid out there. Not NFL, let's go have him be a blocking tight end and do that whole thing. He's not a top tier finisher at the line. Like, that's not who he is. And I don't think that's who we ever expect him to be. But he's hitting the ground a little bit faster than we thought. His body is definitely more NFL ready than he looked when I was watching college tape. Like, he's definitely rounded himself out from a physicality standpoint. And even just his blocking mechanisms are solid. Like, yeah, he's not going to set the edge every single time, but he's serviceable. And serviceable is all you need when you draft a pass-catching tight end who you're drafting to be a weapon in your offense. We know that side of him is solid. Can he pick up the playbook? Can he find the soft spots? All those things. The in-between-the-head stuff, we'll see. But his talent as a catcher of the football is undeniably there. The question was in this offense, can he block enough to see the field? And I think the answer is yes. Like if something happened to Conklin, I don't feel like we missed that much of a beat. If you need high octane offense, you could trot both of those guys out there. If you need more run blocking, obviously you're putting Disley out there. I don't know about Fisk. We can talk about that at some point. But then you could trot out Conklin or Gadsden. Like it just gives you such another level of comfort because as much as Disley was excellent in a pass catching role for us last year, that's not what he's out here to do. And so now we have two versatile, well-rounded tight ends, and then one on the opposite end of the spectrum who's a versatile, well-rounded blocking tight end, but can still go out there and catch balls if we need to. And I think it's going to be invaluable for us to have those safety blankets. Justin Herbert historically has always utilized his tight ends, even at a fault sometimes if he doesn't have a whole lot of talent there. So I think he's going to be a success. I think Conklin, anybody who's starting for the Chargers is going to have some level of success at the tight end position as long as they have any reliability with their hands. And so both in the red zone and on third downs, things like that, I think we're going to get some serious utility out of them. And I think Oronde is really going to round out this room more and more. I think it's going to be earlier and earlier. I think he's pushing for early playing time really heavily. He's earning that spot. Now, is he going to come out here and be the day one starter? No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. And I still think Conklin out snaps him, out targets him on the year. But I really think we might have a jewel on our hands here, boys and girls. Other things, yeah, like I said, Campbell's even making plays. QJ has bounced back for all intents and purposes. He's had definitely more good days than bad days. It's going to be a trust thing, but if you don't need to trust him on that big third down because you have Ladd and KLS and Trey and everybody else and Aronde and Mike and Tyler Conklin, like if you can just use QJ on the times where you don't need to be the game on the line, catch the ball, please, and we all throw up a prayer, that's not a bad thing. Like, yes, it would be fantastic for a first round wide receiver to have all the trust in the world and be the best guy on our team. Who gives a damn? As long as you get the players. So if we get a first round caliber wide receiver in Ladd McConkey in the second round, and you get Trey Harris ends up being a first round caliber wide receiver, who cares that our first round wide receiver probably should have been a second or third round pick? Like, who cares? Just we got them, maybe not in the right order that we all would have wanted, maybe not at the right price, but we got the guys. And at the end of the day, this game is all about putting guys on the field who are going to win you games. Let's just be happy that we're probably getting those guys. So thrilled with seeing how all that goes. The one thing I will say is Cam Hart's getting roasted in all these plays. And I don't know if that's a wide receivers thing. Like you have to remember these drills are schemed up in certain ways. Like you're not expected to for the corner to win every time. Like there's some of that to this. But damn, it feels like every time I look at a replay or a highlight play, Cam Hart's just getting roasted out there. So hopefully he's good. Hopefully the injuries, concussions that he had last year, he's kind of shrugged off and that we're not going to see some kind of sophomore slump for him because as much as we have depth at the cornerback position, they're making it sound like with how many guys that we have on that roster and how many they like them between Jaw and Dean Leonard and I don't know how they feel about Ben St. Juste, but I mean they're starting experience there at the very least. I think we're thin at the top at corner dramatically, but it's hard to necessarily believe that they're going to go pick up more corners given the way that the competition's shaking out. So again, we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. We'll talk about possible free agent additions and things along those lines. Um, so yeah, actually, let's talk about that now. Let's talk about free agent additions because $31.5 million in cap space is where we sit now. So Rashawn Slater, bless your heart for finally re-signing with us. That cleared up. There was a lot of talk going around that it was going to add 14 million to our cap space. That's not the case. It added about 4 million to our cap hit, um, or to our cap space. But so that puts us at $31.5 million in cap space. So we could go target anyone we want. In fact, we could cut Trey Pipkins if we needed to, who's our swing tackle. I don't foresee that at all. But if we needed to go out there and make changes, like you could easily get to $40 million in no time flat. But let's talk about this realistically. You're probably at $31.5 million in cap space for all signings that we're going to have the rest of the offseason and into the season. Um, Now it feels like a lot of money. I really feel like it feels like a lot of money. I feel like most people are pretty strapped with cash at this point in the offseason, and astonishing, they're just not. Like there's like 2/3 of the league who has just as much, if not more, cap space than us, or more than 20 million at least. So like everybody can go out and make moves if they need to. Yes, we have a little bit more than most, but I mean the Eagles have just as much with us. 77 million of dead cap. They somehow have the same amount of cap space as us. And that roster, how he's a wizard, I don't know how he does it, but that's where we're at. I mean, the Chiefs have 20+ million in cap space. They can go out and do things even after all of the re-signings that they've just made and continue to make with Carl Aftis and Trey Smith and everyone else that they've been able to re-sign. I'm sure McDuffie and will be coming up soon, I'm sure. So, yeah, it's just insane to me how they continue to maneuver the cap so well. Those top end GMs are top end GMs for a reason. I mean, shoot, I think the Lions have 48, 45, 48, something like that, million in cap space. You want to talk about someone who's immediately going to get their pick of the bunch at free agents, like those three guys. Like if Christian Wilkins wants to go win a championship, I feel like it's going to the Chiefs, going to the Eagles, or going to the Lions because they just have so much cap space that they can just go get who they want. Now, I would love to have Christian Wilkins on the charge as a Charger. I don't know how weird his situation is. I've heard fondling people's toes. I've heard kissing foreheads. We've all seen the Clemson clips of him getting a little handsy with people. So I don't know how weird he is. I just know what he is as a football player. And it doesn't sound like that big of a character concern to me. Now I'm not the expert in the room, but I would go get him if at all possible. Give him a chance to play the Raiders twice a year. Hope that the Chiefs don't want to go get him and pay that man a decent chunk of money for 1 to 2 years just to prove that he can kind of settle down and shore up that interior defensive line. Because as deep as our defensive line is, it's not top heavy. I expect us to rotate guys a lot. Pass rush juice is not our strong suit in there. Christian Wilkins can do both, and he stops the run at a high level as well. Um, I just think that as much as I know that we're deep at so many positions, at some point you have to look at your top end roster, and if you have a chance to improve it at the top, you take it. That's just the way it is. Look at Elijah Molden last year. Exact same situation. Not obviously as expensive of a free agent, but took the opportunity and increased our talent at the top. Outside of that, I don't know what you guys really want to do with your 32 million, 31 million. I want to do something. Don't know what it is though. Like I would love to get a guard, but can you imagine that happening? I can't personally. I can't. There's no center out there out there in free agency that's going to be an improvement. So you got Jamari and Zion battling it out for left guard, with James and Bozeman battling it out for center. Effectively at this point, you could go get a Will Hernandez. You could go get a Brandon Sheriff, and that probably improves you. But at this point in training camp, is that something we'd expect him to do? Maybe if there's an injury in the preseason games, absolutely. But outside of that, I have a hard time envisioning them going away from their guys, essentially. I mean, we could look at corner. We could look at cornerback and go get James Bradbury or Kendall Fuller or Russell Douglas, or even I think Stephon Gilmore is still a free agent. We could go that route. But again, with the depth that we have at corner and the way that they're battling for those final position spots, do you sacrifice Tucker Fisk or someone in that Steve O'Klotz, Scott Matlock range? Do you sacrifice an extra wide receiver? Do they sacrifice Jalen Rieger? Like, who are you sacrificing for that additional roster spot? Now, I'd love to do it, but I have a hard time envisioning it with the way that they've talked about the cornerback battles that are already present. Uh, yeah, defensive tackle outside of Wilkins, I don't think that there's anybody I'd really target. Wide receiver, do we need it? I don't know. Now all of a sudden, I feel like all we have is people who can go downfield and catch the ball. Got KLS, Rieger can play that role. Obviously, QJ, like where Delavon Campbell that's what he is a straight line go ball receiver. And so, like, who do you go sign? I would love to have a veteran presence in the room, but how much do you take away playing time from the younger guys to do that? Is that a wise decision? Or do you go get somebody decently cheap? Is there a good cheap guy out there who's going to be a good locker room presence from a veteran perspective? Or are you just spending your money on a locker room presence? I don't know. I think I'd probably lean on going edge. Like the first one that jumps out to me, if you don't get Wilkins, because I don't think the Chargers are going to go get a guard. I think it comes right back down to edge. You get that that DPR, that designated pass rusher out there for third down, obvious rushing situations. Sometimes Bud will be out there. It just depends on what you have. But I would absolutely. Jeez, sorry guys, it's late. Can't stop yawning. Look at like a Matthew Judon or a Zadarius Smith. I know Clowney's name's been thrown around quite a bit. I don't see him having that step in there anymore. I think Bud Dupree is actually a very comparable role for him at this point. So I don't think that necessarily makes sense. I see more juice specifically out of Judon coming in a third down pass rusher role. I would love to see him in powder blue. I think that helps the team a lot. I don't know how much it's going to cost you to go get him, but we have enough money to do it. It just depends on what they want to do. It really depends on how that offensive line shakes out. Is there someone that they're willing to go get at left guard, or is Jamari that improved? And it depends on what Wilkins does. And if we are even interested in him, we should be. Everybody should be. He's just too talented of a player that you can add at this point in the offseason at a position that's becoming more and more of a premium position, and not everybody has anchored that way. So I don't know. I'm really happy with how things have gone over the last 4 days between the Slater signing, some of the news that we've heard, and everything else. I can only hope that we have as much positivity coming from the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. I don't think you'll see another recording from me until the day of the Hall of Fame game, so I might even just wait till that night to record again. But I'm just so excited to start getting these guys out here. Do you guys remember the last time you were this excited for preseason? Or am I weird? Because I'm so excited for preseason. Like, there's just so much we don't know about the offensive line positions, the defensive tackle positions, how those are going to shake out, what our cornerback room is going to look like. For the most part, we've got everything else kind of figured out. But what does KLS look like in game time if his injury isn't severe? What does that actually look like out there? And we can really compare him side by side instead of training camp highlights and practice reps and things like that. Like, what does this team as a team look like? Can someone take their backup quarterback job away from Heineke? I'd be surprised. A lot of early training camp and OTAs, I thought Trey Lance looked like absolute hot garbage, but apparently now he's balling out. So we have a full blown competition on our hands. It's like there is so much to watch during the preseason. This is such a different vibe from a preseason standpoint, competition, back end of the roster standpoint. Now I just hope that the top end of the roster can hold up just as much. But either way, I'm going to call it for the night. You guys have seen me yawn like 5 times on camera here, so I'll go ahead and get out of your guys' hair for the evening. I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening, and these were Nature's Calls. Go Bolts. Talk to you guys soon.